It's another Classeek 15, and you're very welcome here. Jack Pepper reporting for duty. I am a composer and author and your host for this one-stop shop for practical advice around a career in classical music. Today we're going to talk about well-being, balance and efficiency with the wonderful violinist and teacher Kirill Troussov. Now, he has played as a soloist with many of the world's leading orchestras, from the Leipzig Gewandhaus to the Czech Philharmonic. In the chamber music space, he's collaborated with Daniel Hope, Misha Maisky and Yuja Wang. And as a teacher, he's actually recently become an ambassador for Classeek, so we can consider this his podcast welcome. We began our chat with his multiple hats, soloist, chamber player and teacher. I began by asking Kirill how he balances different roles and competing demands for his time.
Yeah, I think that one of the keys in our profession is time management, which you have to learn with your ongoing career and already in the studies. I started to think about how to manage my time best, because at a certain age, when you're very young, you think you wake up in the morning, maybe you have school, but after school you have like, wow, I have all the day and I can practice a bit in the morning and I can still practice in the evening and stuff like this. But the more things you start organizing or doing or preparing also for your career, time gets less and limited. So it's very important to have a time management, how much time you spend for practicing and what you do actually in that period of practicing. Then how much time do you invest in your management every day? What do you do in this time to be efficient? For then comes teaching. Yeah, teaching you can't really optimize because there are certain hours that you have to work with your students. But all the other things you can optimize. And I think optimization and time management is the key, but I think in every profession and also in music.
So do you, if we're looking at Kirill's calendar, do you literally have a sort of an hour for reading books for pleasure, an hour for answering emails, an hour for... Do you write everything into the calendar? What does it look like? No,
there is a certain time frame in my day. When I wake up, of course, I check in the morning when I come to the office, I check my emails, I check the WhatsApp, because a lot of things happen through WhatsApp today. So I have two phones. I have a private phone and an office phone, which is, of course, very good because in the evening when I leave my office, I also leave my working WhatsApp on my working phone and not on my private phone. And when I go in the evening, when I go to bed, I want to read something on my private phone. There is no official WhatsApp. There is no email. So it's just private stuff. So my brain can switch off. This is also a very important fact, that you don't carry things with you around. Once you finish your practicing or your office work, make sure that you don't have access to more information which is fleeting you, because today in our world, people are living in different time zones. So somebody writes you from China or from Japan or from the States, it arrives maybe at 11 p.m. when you're just going to bed, and then you're going with that idea to bed, and sometimes it takes time to fall asleep, but if your brain is still working on many things, you receive emails and WhatsApps. So it's very important to separate your private life from your working life. And then coming to the second point which you ask, of course I'm reading in my free time, but this is in my free time and I do not optimize that. What is my free time? I just do things which I like. But my daily life as teaching, as practicing, as organization is everything very time framed.
And what comes first when you are a soloist, chamber player, teacher? Are you more of one than the other two at certain times of the year? Do they sort
certain
of ever
times
compete?
Of the day?
Okay. So you're all three depending on what time of day?
Yeah, but for example, teaching is also connected with practicing, because as I teach a lot every day, this is something which is, of course, I teach, but in the same time I play also when I show. So it's kind of part of my practicing, and through the years of teaching, teaching becomes also something where you keep yourself in shape because you play so many pieces every day. For example, on my online platform, I don't know what people are bringing to lessons. So they come to lesson like, okay, I play Brahms concerto. Next one comes, you like Dvorak. I never know what the people are playing. In the beginning, when you start your teaching career, this can be difficult because you have to have a huge repertoire. But with time, you go on teaching, you simply know all the pieces and you all just take and you play it in the lesson and you show stuff, and this keeps you in shape. So basically, practicing, teaching and concerts is in a way connected because you're always with your instrument, which is not the same than when you do your office emails and all the other stuff. That's the other stuff.
Do you think sometimes there's a paranoia that musicians have when they think, you speak about practicing, when they're away from the instrument, or maybe, as you say, they're teaching, so they might not be the one playing the instrument in that moment? Do you think there's sometimes a fear that you don't have that contact with the instrument that you crave or need?
You need a certain amount of, let's say, when you're young, you need a certain amount of hours every day to practice the instrument. The longer your career is going on and the older you get, we're talking then about minutes. So let's say, of course not 5 minutes, but let's say like 60 minutes, 120 minutes. But this you can combine in a smart way through teaching and practicing. So again, we're coming back to the time management thing. How can you combine things and to make things work together?
Tell us a little bit about the Sarasate Academy, first of all. How would you sort of introduce this organization?
Yeah, since I was young, when you're young, you look for opportunities to show your art and what you're practicing for. And as we all know, it's not easy to start a career. It's not easy to find opportunities to play concerts, to get prizes, to get seen. And since I was young, I made many projects for young artists. But with time now, they get because of budget-wise, today government's trying to save because there are many economical things. So cultural projects get a bit lower on budget. So I try to create more opportunities for young people, and that's the idea behind that. I want to create academies where people gather together, young people from all over the countries. Like Sarasate Academy, we had around 340 applications for the first time. It was last year, was the first edition. And we had students from, I think, over 40 countries or something, or 45 countries. And then we choose the 28 from the 380. And the most incredible factor during the academy is not that I invite always great professors every year, international famous professors, but also that the students which come on the top level, they create networks between themselves, and these networks stay for life. And they can communicate between each other. One gets a position there, the other one gets a management there, like, oh, how does it going? Oh, what did you do for that? And this is today in our world so exciting, which I didn't have in my time. We didn't have like WhatsApp, Instagram, all that. We simply use phone. That was already a revolution. But today, these people, they can create WhatsApp groups, they can communicate, they can meet somewhere. One creates a festival, invites the other one. So the most important, I think, is to create networks. And that's why I try to create these academies and masterclasses and festivals, so I get people together. And for me, the most enjoyable moment is when I see it's up and running and the people communicate, they sit together, they try to invent new projects or speak about what they do. So this is the idea behind that.
And so how do young artists interact with the Sarasate Academy to start with? Do you actively talent scout? Is it an open application? How do you find these
application? It's an open application. So there are 4 professors. There are always 2 violin and 1 viola and 1 cello. For example, for the Sarasate Academy, last year it was Pierre Amoyal, a good friend of mine, I think, and an amazing person, amazing violinist. An amazing professor. Then we had Veronica Hagen, the viola player from the famous Hagen Quartet. And of course, my dear friend Franz Helmerson, who is not only one of the best teachers in the world, but also an incredible person and a good friend of mine. So basically, people apply for a class they want, and then the assigned professor, chooses from this group 8 students, which he likes, based on video material which the student sends with the biography on PDF and a video. Then the professor looks and he put, okay, this, yes, this, and then we get in the 8 per class. There are 8 students, so 28 in total. And
what might a session look like then?
A lesson is 45 minutes with a piano accompaniment, and then the professor works on the ideas of the music, on ideas of the technique, depending on the level of the student. I think each professor has his own approach, and then depending on the level and the age of the student, you start working first on the technical aspects, then on the musical aspects, then which is very important, on the experience of the professor. For example, the professor played this concerto for many times on stage with orchestra. Like, look, you have to be careful. If you play for a big hall, you have to project the sound more. So it's not only about technical things in the left hand and the musical things, but also the experience. Like, for example, when you go on stage, you see these 2,000 people. How do you calm down? How do you make your body calm down on stage in about 3 seconds before the concerto starts? This is, for example, a big technique with breathing. You come out, you're nervous. How do you calm down your body in about 5 to 10 seconds? So this kind of things are also part of the lesson, not only the technical musical approaches.
And what are some of the most common questions that you find yourself being asked by young artists, by music students? Are there particular questions that come back again and again?
Yeah, there's one question which comes very often is, how can I play anytime, any concerto? Yeah, because I teach so many pieces, and the student comes sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times, I don't know what students is playing. So they come to lesson, and I can play any piece anytime. Let's say not 100% in tune, but 95% of the piece is ready. Because the approach, since I was young, I tried to create a system to be more efficient. So the technical aspects in the left hand, the technical aspects in the right hand, there is a whole base behind my school. And once you learn this base, you'll be able to play any piece, anytime. And this is what's important, because being efficient is the key to success in everything, not only in music.
And you mentioned there that you maybe discovered that efficiency quite young. Was that something that you sort of, how young are we talking? Because you made your debut at 8, didn't you? I think your first concert.
Yes, I made my debut 8, and then I knew I was playing I was playing well because I practiced a lot. I had my concerts. I knew that I was kind of a good player. But with time, I started teaching when I was age 18. And then a very interesting thing happened, that I started to teach more and more. And by the age of 22, I was teaching, let's say, 6 to 7 hours a day. But then happened, and then more and more. That was the beginning. So my practicing time got limited. And that's what I told in the beginning of the conversation. When you're younger, you think you can practice in the morning, you can play afternoon, you can practice in the evening. But when all your day is packed and you know that you have only in the evening these hours free for practicing, you start practicing different. Because on top, in the 8 in the evening, normally friends go out, they have a beer or something. So you are practicing on your own free time. Understand? And then you start thinking, how can I optimize? Why am I practicing this run for 2 hours? Maybe I can do something different. And with time, you limit and you access a total different technique because you practice on your own free time. At 8 p.m., normally people go out to restaurants or hang out with their friends. So when you practice 3 hours, that's my choice. But other people may be doing something else.
So what would be your sort of golden piece of advice to your younger self then, thinking about the sort of bigger picture and what you've learned since? What would you say to when you were starting out?
Be more efficient with my time. I was already efficient because I was practicing quite much, also in the age of 14, 15, but to try to optimize things much earlier, at earlier age.
Yeah. And optimize in terms of use of practice time, in terms of use of headspace?
How you use exercise to exercise and to focus exactly on not by repeating simply 20 times and hoping that it gets better. Of course, if you repeat every time, it gets better. But how to be aware of, maybe I just need to play it 4 or 5 times, and which is actually possible, to focus exactly on the actual problem of that actual place, and not repeating 20 times and then suddenly like, oh yeah, it's getting better. Of course it's getting better because you're repeating it. If you play it 200 times, but again, it costs time. So to think back when I was 14, 15, to be more efficient with my time and probably to think more about already what is our business like. Understand, when you're 15, 16, you say, you go to play concerts and this, and you have people who work for you and do stuff. But to understand yourself, what is actually happening? How does it all work? But this is, of course, very easy to say now when I'm older. But I think for 15, 16, you have different things in your head than thinking about this. So this is just what I would say to me when I would be 15, 16.
Well, this is precisely why you're such a respected and celebrated teacher as well, Kirill, because you can impart what you've learned. And I should say, before I let you go, we should say welcome to Classeek as well, because you are a new ambassador for us, and we're very delighted to have you here. So this is, I'm sure, the start of a conversation. But what would you say is your priority with Classeek going forward? What should maybe young artists listening look out for in your relationship with Classeek and your focus going forward?
Classeek is an organization. I mean, I know Benjamin for many years, and I'm very glad I could meet Katarina a few months ago. So once I heard that about the project of Classeek, because that's exactly what I'm talking about thinking yourself how our structure, or I wouldn't say business, but the structure of career working today, and Classeek focuses exactly on this aspect. Yeah, they bring young talents together from the people with the industry, say conductors, directors. They help them to make websites. They help them to make videos. It is all what you need to be seen and to start something you want in your life. And that's why I find Classeek is an amazing company with a very focused aspect. So not like a general management, like big managements, because they have all sorts of artists, young artists, older artists, already mature artists, but Classeek focus exactly on the talented young generation, and they help them exactly on the needs they need. And that's why when we spoke with Benjamin, with Katarina, that I can join the board of ambassadors, that was such a joy for me, because I tried to do it on my teaching and my experience, my academies, and this is kind of then the step which is needed to go further.
Well, Kirill, consider this your inauguration. It's your podcast welcome to Classeek.
Okay.
Kirill Troussov, to be continued. Thank you for joining us.
With pleasure.
And all the details of Classeek are available online, classeek.com. There you can also find the entire Classeek 15 podcast series, which is also available to listen on all the usual podcast platforms worldwide. Topics covered include injury, mental health, touring and repertoire planning, so plenty of different topics to dive into each episode. Until the next time though, thank you for joining me, Jack Pepper, and I really hope we can do this again soon.